what is your definition of the veil? Because this is called the Beyond the Veil Summit.
So a couple of things about the veil. The veil changes. It's dynamic. So as someone approaches, so in our day-to-day life here, Lisa, doing our life, for most of us, we don't have much access to what lies beyond. Well, of course, mediums do and what have you. They will talk about a natural ability to cross the veil. But for most of us mortals, we're kind of in our material world here, the earth plane, and that's what we live in. As you approach death, and the near-death experience, or your own death, or that of a loved one, that veil thins. And what that veil is I can't say what it is materially, but energetically, it just seems to be a light energetic boundary that I would best describe as a frequency. I think that there's a frequency, an energetic, vibrational, quality to being a human being in the earth realm. And what happens as one's dying is they're, in a certain sense, their consciousness, call it soul, spirit, realizes that it is going to be departing this human vessel. And it starts attuning to the next dimension. And that's the higher vibration. And as it starts doing its thing, because those of us who sit at bedside and attune to this will realize the vibration is going up. There's often a high pitch in our ears. There's often a shush or hushy sound, like it's going on. People will talk about that in our research. There was this shushing. There's shh, shh, shh. Well, we know what that is. And we think we do. That's kind of a vibrational sound that's shifting. And as that increases, it seems like that veil then opens and you're attuning to the vibration on the other side. And it's as if there's a homing beacon on the other side, a vibrational force that's gravitationally pulling the dying to it. And if you attune to it, as a caregiver loved one, I think you can go part way. I think you can participate. And that is the shared death experience. And some people just do it naturally. They don't even know. And they have these experiences. Others train. I'm sure you'll be discussing this with some more from indigenous backgrounds, some shamans of sorts, and they talk about this ability to journey and to go into different realms. And I think those are frequency-based realms, at least at a level of experience. I mean, pragmatically, you experience a different vibration. So I might not have answered that very directly, but I think that's kind of what we see. At the end of the day, we're energy. And our energy is shifting as we make this great transition. Mm-hmm. And this is a dense realm. A human body is a rather dense vehicle, if you will. Once we drop this, we naturally pick up our pace, if you will. Our vibration naturally increases. And we also see this all the time in the shared death experience. When they talk about, this sense of ascension, this rising up and out. Wow, what a beautiful sense, like I say, you can't make this stuff up when you're doing research and they say the same thing over and over again. We just look at each other and researchers and just say, wow, it's that same feature again. So yeah, I hope that helps.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you for that. It sort of helped to explain the woman in the video where she said that she and her mate Shar, where they would go past each other and then pull each other up, and then he went ahead and passed through, and she came backwards because she's still in her physical form, so she couldn't go through the veil because she still had the heavy vibration of a physical form.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, Cynthia's case is wonderful in so many regards. But I agree with you. There's this ascension, this going back and forth, and then it's interesting where in that example you or others might see, me included, see the veil, because it seems like this boundary that people talk about, this point of which we as still going to be returning to our human bodies cannot go beyond. And where that is, I kind of think there's a series of spaces there. And that comes also from my NDE experiences. You can be at different levels, at least in terms of phenomena. Like you can be out of body and still be in a hospital room or in the hospital. Then you can be out of your body and sailing through a universe. And you can see the Earth. I saw planet Earth as I was going away from it. And then you can be in a zone that you can't see anything other than different landscapes. I mean, you can see different landscapes, but you don't see that much else. I mean, so there are a lot of different dimensions. So I say that because I want to be really cautious about how much I assert, knowing I just have a lot of experiences, and it seems like that vibrational quality and a sense of people knowing that there's a point at which they cannot go any further. And maybe that's clearly a veil, because people have said, I felt like if I went beyond that, I wouldn't return. And how did you know that? You asked, how do you know that? I said, I just did. I just knew this was as far as I could go. So so that point of veil being the final passing from this life to the next. Yeah. I mean, some near-death experiencers, me included, would say, on these really profound NDEs, feel like you went all the way to the light and then they sent us back. So you cross the veil and then you come back on this. So I think the shared death experiencers do some of that. So like I said, there's different levels within that veil, if you will. But there is one point at which it's kind of final. You either go and you don't come back, but we don't get to talk to those people.
Right. Unless you have a medium.
Unless you have a medium, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting. The things that we're talking about today really aren't all that uncommon. So it's kind of strange that SDEs aren't very well known in our modern culture, while NDEs, people know about them. Why do you suppose that is? Yes.
I've talked to Raymond Moody about this a number of times. And, you just roll your head. It's all hypothesis. I mean, and I think, and Raymond has said that, the NDEs were one person removed typically. The reason they got so popular, it was about somebody having an experience that was typically, a brush with death, usually a painful experience, and they came back. And these are really dramatic, traumatic usually, but awe-inspiring experiences. But they're not ours. We get to read about them. I mean, we get to read, Eben Alexander and Anita Morjani. I mean, these are just phenomenal stories of NDEs with healings and what have you. But the SDE hits close to home. It really, to embrace the shared death experience, you have to accept that at some point you are dying and everyone you love is dying. And so there's a bit of standoffishness about the shared death experience. And now that is breaking down as baby boomer women in particular who have caretaker roles are seeing the way people die in the modern world and saying, we want to do better than this. We want to do this as well as we can. And they are inherently curious, mostly seekers, very spiritually oriented. This is the demographic we're seeing that is really getting interested in this work. So I think that what we're going to see with the shared death experience, and I know this from talking to a lot of people in the publishing industry. I know that when our research, we were very fortunate that we have a book coming out with Simon & Schuster, but when we were speaking with publishers, every one of the top publishing houses was extremely interested in this. They were just getting aware of the shared death experience. We were the first researchers to really come in and say this is a real thing, and they were all wanted to publish this work. So I think we're going to see a major change. I think we're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years, I think the SDE will become a household name.
Thanks for listening. Check out Castle Gate, a novel based on my own ancestral healing journey at lisabonis.com. In 1921, 4 men set off from Scotland to the United States. Will Garrock, his brother Pete, his son Willie, and his nephew Thomas, all coal miners. They left behind the miners' rows and the nationwide mining strike with its soup kitchens. Their destination was Castlegate, Utah, where they had kin to welcome them before sending for their wives and children. They prospered in America, working in one of the finest mines in Utah. Until that tragic day, March 8th, 1924. Disaster struck. 3 explosions, trapping 171 men inside. Rescue crews worked tirelessly for days, but sadly, they could not save a soul. Women were widowed and children were orphaned, and some never recovered from their broken hearts. Castlegate is the true and tragic saga of a Scottish family whose dreams of finding their fortunes in the bountiful coal mines of Castlegate, Utah during the Prohibition era explode in one of the most devastating mine disasters in American history. Learn more at lisabonis.com.